Finland's president is delivering one of the bluntest warnings yet about the war in Ukraine and what it means for Europe as the United States debates its role. Speaking at a military training base north of Helsinki, President Alexander Stubb says a ceasefire is unlikely this year, and that Europe needs to hold its nerve and keep backing Ukraine through the winter and beyond.
I'm not very optimistic about achieving a ceasefire or the beginning of peace negotiations, at least this year. I mean, perhaps if we get something going by February, March, that would...
In an interview in Halvala, Stubb says the odds of achieving a ceasefire or even starting peace talks in 2025 are low. He warns that European allies can't let up even as a corruption scandal engulfs Kiev. Stubb says President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has to move quickly on allegations of kickbacks and embezzlement because the scandal plays straight into Russia's hands. But he stresses that this cannot be an excuse to walk away from Ukraine's defense. Finland knows what Russian aggression looks like. In the 1940s, after 2 wars with Moscow, the country lost about 10% of its territory and agreed to military neutrality just to survive. And that stance only changed after Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, when Finland joined NATO and became one of the alliance's frontline states, sharing an 830-mile border with Russia. Now Stubb has an unusual role. He's one of the key European go-betweens between Donald Trump and President Zelenskyy. He says his job is to explain what Finland went through, what the battlefield looks like, and how to deal with Vladimir Putin. And if Trump accepts even one out of 10 ideas, Stubb says that's still a win. Stubb praises Trump for sanctioning Russian energy giants like Lukoil and Rosneft, but says it's not enough. He wants Europe and the US to use frozen Russian assets as collateral to fund Ukraine and to increase military pressure so Russia feels real pain in its military and defense industry. He points to Trump's recent decision to deny Ukraine long-range Tomahawk missiles and the canceled plan for a meeting with Putin in Budapest as examples of how quickly Washington's line can shift. Meanwhile, Stubb says Europe has to brace for more than tanks and missiles. Russia is already waging what he calls a hybrid war across the continent, with drone incursions, fighter jets, suspected sabotage, arson, vandalism, and propaganda campaigns. The way through, he says, is to be Finnish, cool, calm, collected, and armed with a little bit of Sisu, that mix of endurance and grit to ride out a long winter.